Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 846 Transport and Infrastructure Committee. Sorry for being a bit behind. The Water and Waste ran over for a short period of time, but I'd like to welcome the committee here. I'd like to welcome Councillor Fowler and Councillor Curtis as guests of today's committee. First of all, I'd like to move an apology for Councillor Hamill, who hasn't been well. I just want to know if someone would second the motion. Councillor Young, all in favour? Carry. If we can note apologies for Councillor Hamill. Thank you. Confirmation of minutes, previous minutes of the meeting. Do I have a mover for the previous minutes, or was there any changes there? No. Mover Councillor Tozer, seconder Councillor O'Neill. All in favour? Carry. Thank you. No conflict of interest to be raised? Neil? So we have 3 items started at the moment, 5.1, 6.2 and 6.3. Does anyone want to unstar any of those? 3? Councillor Gates? 6.3? We'll unstar 6.3. Okay, so that leaves us 5.1 and 6.2. Do we have a mover for the 2 start items? Councillor Tozer, seconder, Councillor O'Neill. Put it to the floor. All in favour? Carry. Thank you. So we'll move to 6.1. Response petition stop through traffic along Mystery Road, Gangabar. Now, I don't know if you want to get a brief on that, or whether you want. I know Councillor Young would like to ask a couple of questions. So,
thanks very much, Chair. I think I've resolved pretty much all my questions with Ms. Wise beforehand. I'm really grateful for that opportunity, but I just wanted to clarify this issue that's arisen today out of correspondence from a resident concerning the placement of the trucks prohibition on Guanaba Creek Road. I've submitted to you that I believe it should be at a point further west. Are you able to review that, or are you holding your position?
Just through the chair. Yeah, we can look into it. I think that probably what we need to look at is whether there's opportunity for the vehicles to turn around there.
Okay.
That's why we've placed the signs where we had, but we can look at it.
Thanks. I don't have any more questions, but I'll be happy to speak to the item if you don't mind, Chair, at the right time. Yes, I'll move the committee the officer's recommendation with an addition, which is coming up on the screen. Somewhere. Yes, so the addition is that the City formally writes to Scenic Rim Regional Council requesting that they address the safety concerns on their section of the road, and to also formally request permission to install signs on that part of their road. So that's in addition to the points that were already in the motion before us, or officer's recommendation. I'll move that, Chair.
do I have a seconder?
Yes. So I'll just try to be brief. Thank you very much for this. I'm really grateful to the officers who provided this report and the opportunity to meet on about 10 occasions since this petition was tabled in Council last November. At the time, I'd been dealing with residents' frustration for a long time. There'd been countless numbers of CRs raised or customary requests to have maintenance done on potholes and broken bits of road and all that sort of stuff, but there were limitations because of the steep grade of the road. It's 20 degrees in places, it's very steep, and workplace health and safety rules meant it was almost impossible for a council to get trucks on there legitimately and do that maintenance. Those rules have changed over the period of time since the road was first opened. So there's a lot of frustration from the community about that, and about accidents on the road, and about wildlife impacts, which have been really severe. This is a little country road that winds up a very steep hill and forms a through route between Mount Tamborine and the Gold Coast to some extent, and it's very unwelcome by the local community. So a petition was tabled, and that expressed the desire for us to close the road. And I was concerned that that might have some undesirable ramifications for the local community, and I published that on social media. There was a lot of response to the matter. We had lots of correspondence come in. All of that's been handed to the responsible officers, and I've met with them on various occasions. As I said, we've gone through all of that very carefully and assessed all of the input that people have kindly provided, and really grateful for that input. Ultimately, it was determined that it was not desirable to close the road because you're really prohibiting local people from accessing services that they need, for example, schools on Tamborine Mountain, or shops or markets or whatever it may be. And likewise, we're prohibiting access from the mountain down into Guanaba Valley and Oxenford and places like that. There's Mystery Road also provides an emergency exit point if there was to be fires or floods. It keeps a route open that wouldn't necessarily be affected by those in those circumstances. And for these sorts of reasons, it was determined by the officers not to support the closure. And people ask, well, can't we just get a gate and have keys? And of course, there's lots of management implications with that, and you might go through and leave the gate open, and then the whole process is come unstuck. So careful attention's been paid to the real problems and how they can be improved, and there's been a budgetary commitment already made in the 24-25 budget, where you might recall I raised an item and we allocated $150,000 in this current financial year to progress some planning, and about $850,000 in the next financial year to actually do some works on the road, so installing guardrail, making the pavement wider and so forth. In some places the pavement is only 3 metres wide, so it's a pretty narrow strip of road, and not built for a lot of traffic, and unfortunately it's getting a lot of traffic. There's no speed limit signposted on the road, so it's a bit of a hell for leather. It goes through obviously a rural environment, lots of wildlife. People's quality of life has been severely impacted by the amount of traffic. So there will be a new speed limit on the road of 50 kilometres an hour that'll be signposted, and the QPS has been engaged with, and they will actively enforce that from the time of the new signposting in October. There have been some improvements made already in terms of local signage, and there are further enhancements to that. There's a comprehensive signage plan being developed for Mystery Road, and that's part of the report. There's also a comprehensive signage plan being prepared for Guanaba Creek Road, which feeds into Mystery Road, and that's the main route that the people of the valley use, and it's experiencing a lot of additional traffic and a lot of fast traffic from out-of-towners, you might say, or people not local to the area. So comprehensive plan about signage and reinforcing the what the character and amenity of the road really should be. There'll be a prohibition on trucks on that road, so we've had instances of semi-trailers getting stuck on the hairpin bends. They just cannot move because it's so tight. There's been instances of trucks just completely rolling over because it's so steep at those corners, and so the trucks will be prohibited. And I believe we can possibly in the future prohibit vans or long vehicles. We can isolate different characteristics or styles of vehicle. At this point in time, the prohibition will be on trucks. It won't apply to trucks delivering services to local community. For example, there's farmers there that need trucks for moving livestock around, that sort of stuff, but it's for the through route. We've got a funding application made to the Department of Transport and Main Roads for black spot funding from the federal government. So the state government department manages that and assesses the applications made by councils, and we've got an application already submitted, and that is seeking about $1.9 million of federal money to attend to the black spots which have been identified on that road. through that careful analysis. We're hopeful, of course, of getting that money. We've also got the council money to support those works. All in all, it's a good solution, but it's not going to please everyone. And it's almost like a committee outcome. It's not going to please anyone. There's people that still would want that road closed, and I would love someone here to move successfully that we close the road. I think it would just be the solution. But of course, as I've identified, it opens up a whole bunch of other problems which are unworkable. So I'm supportive of the council officer's recommendation with this addition. There's been engagement with Scenic Rim already, because part of this road, Mystery Road, part of it is owned by Scenic Rim Council, part of it is owned by the state. So there's been all sorts of integration necessary, and that's been productive. But this formal letter will just put the icing on the cake in the sense of their attention to their part of the road, which includes a very significant hairpin bend. Happy to take any questions if I can help. But
Thank you.
Thanks for your time, Councillor.
Councillor Gates.
Thanks, Chairman. My question through you to Councillor Young is, with your addition of 5, has there been discussion with the Scenic Rim about paying for the signage on the Scenic Rim section of the road, or does this suggest that Gold Coast City would pay for that signage?
I can't answer that except to say that's the wording I was provided by Ms Wise.
Could we make it, would you consider saying that the City formally writes to Scenic Rim Regional Council requesting that they address the safety concerns and installation of signage on the Scenic Rim section of the road?
Absolutely happy with that, and I think that's fair and reasonable.
On the Scenic Rim section of
on their
Mystery
section of
Road or whatever.
And so after the word road in that line, the rest of it can be removed.
Thanks, Councillor Young. I think
Thanks to
that's
you.
fairer.
Councillor Tozer, you happy with the change? Yep, thank you.
Still a mystery to me, but
Thank you. Councillor O'Neill, would you like to talk?
Thanks, Chair. Probably to Renee. Have we had much luck in getting confirmation that the software mapping people have sort of deleted the, sending people down that road?
It's a good question. I can't answer that, but I did miss out the fact that we have written to both the major software mapping companies to ask them to alter their data so that Mystery Road won't appear as the calculated route of shortest path and direct traffic to it. It's
Yeah, there could also be some sites that aren't really official sites that do that as well. I've just came across just recently some sites that actually tell people that QE Park in Coolangatta is a free camping ground. Ridiculous. But there are some sites around that just say this stuff even though they don't really know for sure. Right. So that's why I asked that question, because I don't know whether they actually do write back to you.
Yeah, that was correct.
Yeah, just through the chair, no, we haven't heard a response, but we can follow up.
Thank you. Anyone want to speak for the motion? Yeah, we did get a mover, Councillor. Oh, sorry. So we had Councillor Young, seconded Councillor Tozer.
Thanks, Glenn.
And that was for the change. Anyone want to talk for the motion? Anyone against? Put it to the floor. All in favour?
Thank you.
Carry.
And with that, as I mentioned earlier.
Yep. So can you note Councillor Young needs to leave the meeting. Thank you. We'll now go to 6.3, Councillor Gates, petition response improvement of Tallerwood Park Dog Agility Area.
I don't have any questions about this. I just really wanted to thank the officers and speak to it, because it was the subject of a petition with 80 signatories or thereabouts, and I have since been provided photographic evidence of how crowded that little dog exercise area is. It wasn't constructed by the city but by the developer. And I think they've done great work, the officers, on this to cover everything that the petitioners requested and to support the expansion. And what I'm really appreciative of was, because it was an existing area, it's been able to be included in the consultation process that occurs next month. I think we're all aware that we've got a workshop coming up about the process for advertising and inviting community input into our leash-free areas, but this one, because it's been on our books for a while and the officers have got through it and it's existing and just intended to be expanded, it paved the way to advertise it early and get moving. So thank you, officers, for your work, and the petitioners will be happy.
Thank you. And as was mentioned by Councillor Gates, we are talking more about how we can improve our dog parks as a growing city. We will be having many more animals running around our streets, and how we manage it is really important. So, but it's good to see we've got a good outcome here. So do I have a seconder to the motion? Councillor O'Neill. Anyone want to talk against it? Okay, all in favour? Move it. Sorry, my apologies. You have to move it, Councillor Gates. Move it, Councillor Gates. Seconder, Councillor O'Neill. Thank you. Put it to the floor. All in favour? Carry. Thank you very much. 6.3. We'll now move to 6.4. Presentation, Central South Coast Transport Network Planning Overview.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for the opportunity. We've got Nick Prasser here as Manager Transport. This is a second of a series of briefings around the transport network planning, in particular on Central and South Gold Coast.
Thanks, Chair. As Mitch said, this is number 2 of 5. I did provide the relevant councillors a briefing on this last Wednesday. It did take me 90 minutes, so I promise it won't take 90 minutes. So I will have to rush through some of the slides, but with the knowledge that the relevant councillors have been briefed on this presentation previously. The state also has a big role to play in the Gold Coast transport future, and I haven't included all the initiatives. We've got a lot of smaller projects and asset management projects that we just don't have enough time to get through today. Obviously, transport aligns with the council plan in terms of connected community, but transport does play a role in all the themes. Where do they come? Where do these projects come from? They come from our transport strategy and modal plans. Come from LGIP. Comes from a lot of our network planning, corridor planning. It does come from a lot of feedback from councillors and from the community, and it comes from a lot of data insights as well. So the context. So the central south area is really the suburbs between Nerang River and Tullibudgera Creek. We initially were going to have the presentation that was going to focus on Robina. With Robina obviously being one of our 2 traffic congestion hotspots, the other one being Coomera. But my EGM asked if we could expand it to include the whole of those central south suburbs. So it's pretty much includes the suburbs of Broadbeach, Mermaid Beach, Miami, Burleigh Heads, all the canal suburbs, as well as those suburbs that sort of butt up against the M1, which includes Carrara and Robina. So the current population of the Central South is around about 22% of the Gold Coast population. It's currently sitting at around about 140,000 people. The largest suburb is Robina, and the fastest growing suburbs are Broadbeach, Varsity Lakes and Burleigh Heads. So Broadbeach obviously was a significant tourist area we've now got a lot more people living in that area. Same with Burleigh Heads. So in terms of the state network, you can see the M1 there, which makes the western border of Central South, and then we've got the east-west roads there. And obviously as well the Brisbane to Gold Coast passenger rail line with stations at Nerang, Robina and Varsity Lakes. City Major Road network. So we've got our arterial network there in the blue, and we've also got our distributor roads there in the dashed blue. So the area is quite well serviced by bus routes. It's also using a number of hubs, being the heavy rail stations as well as Robina, Varsity Lakes and Burleigh Heads. So it looks like it's actually got good coverage, but if you go to the next one, there are a number of high frequency routes there. So the routes that services that run every 15 minutes. But as we progress towards being a city of 1 million people, we need more of these type of high frequency bus routes. We also have our own community transport initiatives. We've got a ferry service, a free seniors and veterans bus travel service, a council cab service, e-bike hire scheme, and a car share scheme. So this is the city's contribution to community transport initiatives. In terms of public transport, we all know about Light Rail Stage 3. You can see the map there. It goes from Broadbeach South down to Burleigh Heads. That's under construction. Also under construction is a new railway station at Merrimack. That's looking at opening, I think, late 2025. So as part of our transport strategy, we've also looked at, it also highlights the need for future east-west and northern mass transit corridors. So Gold Coast Light Rail 4 is a stage 4. We've got future stages that we would like to see come to fruition over the coming decades. In particular, the two in this area is Nerang to Broadbeach and Robina to Nobby Beach or to Miami. And in partnership with the state, we've done a little bit of further planning work on that. The first one being Nerang to Broadbeach, you can see there. And the next one is Robina to Miami using that corridor there through Varsity Lakes and Bond University. Obviously, light rail being a very expensive proposition, the idea is to look at a bus rapid transit option, which is something that can transition into light rail in the longer term future. But the bus rapid transit would function very similar to a light rail, high frequency, limited stops, some opportunities for right of way, very specialised vehicles with a very strong brand, so people think they're getting a much higher level of service than a normal bus route. Hence, there's opportunities for them to continue using it. User-friendly, very fast boarding and alighting, so having 3 doors, you can get on and off very quickly, and obviously using advanced technologies such as electric propulsion. And there's an example there of, as part of our planning of a future Robina Town Centre station, which is directly adjacent to the proposed Olympic Athletes Satellite Village. And you can see the red lanes there is actually taking away a lane for traffic and converting that into a bus lane. These are very conceptual. Here's another example of the Varsity Lake station, where you would convert the traffic flow to one way and put in this this busway sort of system. Active transport, we've all heard about the Ocean Way. We've recently done an analysis, and there are approximately 17 projects that need to be done to complete the Ocean Way to see the 36 kilometres come to fruition. In the Central South area, there are 6 projects that need to occur. The main one is the project there at Mermaid Beach, which we're currently looking at planning and delivering as part of the overall Ocean Way strategy. There will be some environmental issues that need to be investigated and overcome through there. but we all know that the Ocean Way is a very well-used facility. We recently opened Surfers South. It's used by 12,000 people a day. So it's a good example of you build it and they will come. Also, as part of our transport strategy, we have a series of green bridges that we are currently investigating. The one currently we're investigating and doing business case on is the Florida Gardens to Broadbeach Green Bridge or bridges. We've got a lot of support from the community in that area. As you can see, it's sort of that Florida Gardens area acts as a bit of a peninsula. They're very, very close to a lot of facilities at Broadbeach, very close to a light rail station. But to get there, they have to go north and over the Monaco Street Bridge. If we can look at getting these links in, it's going to be a 5-minute walk into the heart of Broadbeach for that community. So we are looking at various options, different design options, different route options, and looking at how we're going to connect those green bridges into the wider network, particularly the Ocean Way. Some other ideas on our forward program is a green bridge from Broadbeach Waters to Isla Capri. This is just simply an idea at this point in time. And another green bridge idea from Mermaid Waters to Robina, which effectively goes over the top of Bermuda Street and breaks down that barrier. We've also recently completed what we call the Robina Walking Network Plan. This is an initiative of the Queensland Government when they brought out the Queensland Walking Strategy. They're encouraging local governments to do this network planning. The state have now announced that there will be a grant stream to actually start implementing some of these initiatives that are in the plan, and so we will be tapping into that funding moving forward. We've recently also did one for Southport, and that will be in the Central North presentation next month. The state also did a walking plan for Broadbeach South, and that's really focusing around the Broadbeach South light rail station and how we're going to get people walking to that station. And a lot of those we'll be investing in over the next 5 to 10 years. We've also got a lot of shared path projects. I'm not going to go into detail. A lot of disability access improvement projects that we're doing in the area. These are all very short term this year and next year. 2 schools we're focusing on, Mymany State School and Robina State School. Pedestrian crossing facilities. As traffic grows, as population grows, traffic grows, people find it more difficult to cross roads. So we're putting together a signalised pedestrian crossing program and rolling that out across many urban areas. And bus stop upgrades. We're continuing to upgrade all our bus stops across the city. Road network. So the state have got a couple of large projects happening in the area. We've got the M1 Varsity Lakes to Tugun upgrade project. That is looking like it will be complete by the end of next year. That will provide 6-lane capacity, but it also significantly improves all the interchanges, and it also includes a new service road from Eleonora over to Burleigh Heads, which hopefully will take a lot of those local trips off the M1 who are doing that suburb-to-suburb trip. Cooma Connector, we all know about the Cooma Connector. Its southern portal is on Nerang Broadbeach Road, so that will provide a link for motorists so they don't have to do their travel on the M1. They can go and do suburb-to-suburb trips using the Cooma Connector. That southern section is looking like it will be open by 2028. So it's still a few years away, but they're doing the construction from the north to the south. Just some projects that are happening in the area in the short term. I mentioned at the last presentation there are quite a few T intersections across the city, priority controlled intersections that have crash history and causing safety problems. So we have a program now where we'll be signalising quite a few intersections across the city. You saw that in the north. There were about 8 projects there that we're signalising. We'll also be signalising these 2 intersections on Nelson's Road in 25-26. We're doing some works along that section of Nelson's Road. The road pavement is failing, so that will be a full road reconstruction along there, and we'll also be signalising Nelson's Road, Hickey in the short term as well. Broadbeach Waters, so T. Peters Drive, we did a what we call a road diet project back there a few years ago. It seemed to be quite a success, and what that did was we had 2 lanes of traffic heading westbound, and we found that we didn't need 2 lanes of traffic. We found that the active transport facility through there was deficient. We found people having difficulty reversing out of their driveway, so we converted one of those lanes into a bicycle lane into a parking lane. And while we're there, we upgraded the curb and the footpaths, and it's working very well. So we've got a number of bridges in these canal suburbs that need rehabilitation. So you'll see quite a few. We've got Monaco Street, we've got Sunshine Boulevard, where we'll be doing significant rehabilitation works to extend their usable life in the short term. And I mentioned before the Florida Gardens green bridges. In Mermaid Beach, Mermaid Waters, Miami, there's a bridge there that over the canal that needs some rehabilitation works done in the short term. Pacific Parade, Ocean Parade, we'll be doing a traffic signal refurbishment project there. Sunshine Boulevard Bridge, another bridge, so there's a common theme here with regards to our asset management and our critical assets being our bridges. A lot of these canal bridges are 30 to 40 years old, so giving them giving them a bit of love and care will extend their life considerably. Cheltenham Drive and Killarney Drive was traffic signal improvement project. Macquarie Street, River Vista Boulevard is another traffic signal refurbishment project. And Hedges Avenue. So Hedges Avenue is in need of a road reconstruction in terms of its pavement. It's reached its end of its life. And while we're there, we're going to look at opportunities where we can get a really good active transport facility implemented, some road safety and some lighting, and looking at undergrounding all the power through there to improve the amenity of Hedges Avenue through that north-south stretch there. And Macquarie Street Bridge, that's another bridge we've got in our books that we'll be doing some rehabilitation works on. Robina Town Centre. So in terms of what we're doing here, we've recently converted the roundabout to traffic signals at Christian Avenue in Scottsdale. We've signalised the intersection of Scottsdale Prospect. We've put signalised pedestrian crossings on 3 legs of the intersection of Robina Town Centre Drive and Scottsdale Drive to improve pedestrian safety. Got a lot of pedestrians across there. We're currently upgrading the intersection of Robina Town Centre Drive, Laver Drive, the Rocket Roundabout. We're converting roundabouts to traffic signals. That is more primarily to address pedestrian issues. We've got 600 pedestrians that walk through that intersection, and as traffic volumes increase over time, it's very, very difficult for pedestrians to cross there. Cheltenham Drive, Laver Drive, we're looking at upgrading that intersection as well. And Robina Town Centre Drive and Maybury Lane, we're converting that roundabout to signals. So you can see a common theme with Robina. It was developed in the 90s. A lot of roundabouts. Roundabouts are fine. Developers like them. You can put trees and gardens in the middle of them. But over time, as traffic increases, as traffic flows become unbalanced on particular legs, it's very difficult to cross them as a pedestrian, and they start causing congestion. So there's a common theme here where some of our roundabouts will be converted to traffic signals that we can control them better, and they're much safer for pedestrians. And the last big project in Robina is the Robina Parkway Laver Drive intersection, which we sometimes call the Eggabout. Eggabout. Egg. Looks like an egg. So it's not round. So we refer to it as the Eggabout, but that is obviously a centre of a lot of congestion in the Robina area. So we've got that in our LGIP. We know that it needs to be upgraded in the future. we've been involved with our city planning branch with regards to what we call this Robina Central Planning Review. So the state have set us population growth targets that we have to meet. And so City Planning Branch are looking at areas where there are opportunities to do uplift in terms of density and changes into mixed land use. Robina is obviously it's a pretty key area for that. And so they're doing a land use planning exercise to uplift the density through there. The Robina Central Planning area is controlled by separate state legislation, and you would have seen reports that came to the Planning and Regulation Committee with regards to what we're doing there. What we've done is we've got all the uplifted land use that is getting proposed there and put it into our transport model, and we can't get our transport model to work. Obviously, we've tried different scenarios. We've tried lots of investment, and we can't get just a road-based model to work. So we know we need a multimodal outcome to occur in this area. So roads will be part of the solution, but it won't be the solution. There needs to be a balanced suite of modal solutions to address the Robina area. So going back to the Robina Parkway Labour Drive intersection, you can see there, looks a bit like an egg. So we do have plans for that. We've looked at signalising it. Don't necessarily think that will solve the problem. And we've also looked at grade separating, so putting that movement from Robina Parkway to Robina Parkway over the top of the roundabout there. So that is part of our LGIP, but we've also done some modelling in this area, and the problem we've got is all the traffic congestion is actually stemming from the M1 interchange there, and you can see that drone footage there that we got from the interchange. It backs all the way back up through the Eggabout. So if we were to invest a significant amount of money in that intersection, it will actually just get people to the back of the queue quicker. So we need to do this in partnership with the state. The state need to come along and have a look at what they need to do to that interchange there. Part of the problem with that interchange is you've got a lot of people doing east-west, and that east-west traffic, so people coming from Mudgeeraba, going to Robina and vice versa, sucking up a lot of the capacity of the interchange. So one of the things we're looking at is possibly an overpass in the area, so the local traffic on the overpass and the interchange can do its job of getting people on and off the M1. So the key message here is, yes, we do have plans to upgrade the intersection, but we can't do it in isolation. It needs to be done in partnership with the state. In terms of Varsity Lakes, we've recently done a study. Varsity Parade, we're looking at doing a whole heap of works there, more to make Varsity Parade a place for people. So looking at speed limit, we're looking at active transport improvements, pedestrian crossing improvements. We've done quite a significant amount of disability access improvements, and we've got some other works proposed along there. We've recently also done a study along Christine Avenue. We're looking at doing some works in the short term at the intersection of Christine Avenue and Maddox to just improve its operation. We're looking at doing some full road reconstruction of Christine Avenue through there. So the pavement is in very, very poor condition, and we'll be reconstructing that. And as part of that project, we'll look at opportunities to improve active transport through the area. Christian Avenue and Silverbank, that's another one of those T intersections across the city where people just struggle to get out, turn right out of Silverbank, particularly during AM peaks, that we just really need to signalise and make it safer for those road users. So University Drive, we've got some works happening along there as well. The key one there is a signalised pedestrian crossing in the future to provide much safer access to the school. So Varsity College is the largest school, high school on the Gold Coast. And Christine Avenue, Varsity Sound Avenue is a roundabout, and we're looking at doing some minor works there to improve capacity in the short term. And Varsity Parade Assembly Drive near the school there, we're looking at possibly one-way Assembly Drive to improve active transport and parking situation through there. That's something that The previous council have also asked us to advocated for Burley Waters. So this continues on with our Christine Avenue works. We've recently upgraded the Christine Avenue Cassowary Drive. In December, we are starting the replacement of the Cassowary Drive Bridge. So that bridge is being fully replaced, not rehabilitated. So that is going to be something we have to manage traffic very carefully on. Christine Avenue, Lamanna Lane, we've got a traffic signal refurbishment project happening there where we're going to be doing some tweaks to the traffic signals and improving active transport through there. And then Christine Avenue, Dunlin Street, in the short term, that's a roundabout we're looking at converting to traffic signals. And then we've got 2 offset T intersections along Christine Avenue at Burley Street and Jones Street where we're looking at putting in 2 sets of traffic signals, but they'll be integrated traffic signals to improve the safety along there as well. Christine Avenue, we're looking at putting a signalised pedestrian crossing and then ultimately 4-laning that in the long term. Nearly there. And parking, we can't forget about parking. We've got a number of traffic areas in this Central South. The first one being the Central Traffic Area, which includes Broadbeach. And we've also got a traffic area for Varsity Lake. So that sets a blanket 3-hour parking limit for those areas. And it also allows people who live in there to get residential parking permits. And you may recall last year we got council resolved to introduce a traffic area for Gold Coast Light Rail Stage 3. In that precinct there, and so the local law is currently being amended to facilitate that, and that will be in place by the opening of the Light Rail 3. And we've also got some event traffic areas around the stadiums as well. We've also got a 2 park incentive schemes, so we've got parking meters, one at Broadbeach and the other one at Burley Heads, where we've got the parking meters put in there to help with the turnover and help the businesses out. And the revenue we receive from the parking meters, 50% of that goes back into a reserve that we use for public realm and public amenity improvements in those areas. So that scheme is working well. It's getting the turnover in the parking. If people can go there now and they want to go to a restaurant, they've got an opportunity to find an on-street park. That's it, Chair. I hope it wasn't too quick. Any questions?
Thank you. Councillor Gates.
Thank you. I have about 4, if that's okay, through you, Chair. The first one, the Nielsen's Road upgrade was on a slide a way back in conjunction with the signalisation, but I recall at one point doing some media on a trial of the road surface at that very location. Did it fail, that trial, or is that the area that the road pavement needs total replacement? Do you recall?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I actually think the trial was on the section of road a little further to the east. So the section that Nick showed up was in front of the cricket club.
Okay.
The section that we did the trial on was actually east of the next set of lights.
And has it been effective?
It has, as far as I understand.
Oh, that's great. Okay, that was the first one. You mentioned a Florida Gardens Green Bridge. Has that been adopted by council in the program of works?
Yeah, so it's in the budget for planning only. So we're doing the business case. We don't know if it's feasible or not. But we're looking at various options, and then once we've done that planning, that gives us a better insights whether it's feasible, whether it's value for money, and whether we should proceed with that.
And would that come back to council for a decision? Because the last resolution I recall was us not wanting to progress many of the green bridges that had been put forward, but to focus on the road network so that we get our traffic moving. So, but that will come back.
Yep.
Thank you. The other one, the undergrounding of power on Hedges Avenue. Have there been discussions with the state about a contribution or payment for the potential undergrounding? I should imagine it would be very expensive. I've known of situations where councils shared the cost but never fully covered the cost. So what's the position with that, please?
Yeah, through the chair. Look, it's too early to answer that question. The reason why we're looking at undergrounding of power is because the verges through there are quite narrow, and the power poles are right in the middle of them. So it's not a very good environment for pedestrians in particular. Energex do have a grant scheme where they do contribute towards undergrounding power. So we will tap into that. But it's still too early at this stage. We won't be commencing the planning on that project until 25, 26.
Okay, perhaps we can seek some commitments from either side in the next few months. But I understand the problem with the narrow pavement there and the power poles. I just hate to think of another transfer of funding to the ratepayer when power rests with the state government. The only other question I had, Chairman, if you don't mind, was in regard to the event parking management. And it's just a query. I've had discussions with Councillor Doran recently about the way we manage parking for events in that Robina precinct. And I wasn't sure, and you'll be able to tell me, if Council was to consider a change to what is in place at the moment, would that require advertising and a change to the local law, or is it at Council's discretion to change the parking situation?
Through the chair, yes, it requires a change to local law.
Change to the local law. So that's quite a lengthy process.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tozer.
I had some questions just about the conversation you were having earlier about Robina. You touched on the idea that the egg about was relatively impractical, and you used the word to describe a possible solution as an overpass. You said an overpass. What do you mean by that? And where to and from?
Through the chair. So we've got this issue all the way down the M1, all the way from Ormo, all the way down through to Coolangatta.
Yes.
Where we've got a lot of east-west movements, and the only way to go east-west is through an interchange. And the problem with that is that east-west movement, it soaks up a lot of the capacity of the interchange. And that's why we've got all the congestion on Foxwell Road, at Robina, and all the way down. So there are a number of overpasses proposed. We've got one at Coomera called Road G that we're looking at. So we thought, well, let's think outside of the box at Robina. Is there any opportunities where we could possibly put in an overpass?
So a trafficable, like a vehicle overpass that just takes you east and west and doesn't connect with the M1?
Correct.
Okay.
And there are a number of opportunities we're currently looking at. So once we've firmed those up, and if they're feasible, we'll obviously come and communicate that with yourself.
Right. And is there any preliminary location work, design work being done?
That's all part of what we're looking at. Yeah, there are some opportunities, some locational opportunities. If you've got any ideas, happy to receive those and look into them.
Yeah, I mean, west of Robina is Division 9.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm super interested in this idea. I'd never ever heard of us exploring building a road over the top of the M1 in order to mitigate traffic congestion.
Yeah, so as part of the Robina Gateway study, that's part of the scenario testing we've had to do. We've had to look at a whole range of scenarios in terms of what happens if the state throws in a significant investment? What if the city does it? What if we do it together? And then what are the different network options we've looked at? And one of those is an overpass.
Yeah.
It's still an idea at this point in time that is in the mix. And until we finish that, we'll come and consult with yourself.
Has there been any conversations with the state about retaining an interchange but closing the on and off ramps, or partially closing the on and off ramps?
I don't think that would be feasible.
So the concept is that there are too many people using the interchange from the M1 and the others and the east-west connections.
Mm-hmm.
We actually had a conversation about traffic movements on the state network to see if there is Robina Town Centre Drive at exit 79 maybe doesn't take north and southbound traffic off the M1, and the major interchange at exit 82 takes all of it instead, and that actually enables locals to travel between the west and the east.
Yeah, so the issue we've got there at Robina, you will need a full interchange there because that feeds into Robina Parkway. So Robina Parkway is our key sort of east-west, north-south arterial through there. If you take away the on and off ramps, or even some of them, that then will divert traffic onto some other roads, in particular probably Robina Town Centre Drive or Reedy Creek Road. So it will overload those adjacent interchanges. I think it's important that we keep that connection to Robina Parkway. If you have a look at the network map, Robina Parkway does play a key role through that whole area. So we really need to get traffic. We really need to link to the M1.
So the idea is really just incorporating this Coomera model into Robina and finding a potential location where you can just deliver an east-west connection.
Correct.
Without having regard for M1 connectivity at all.
Correct.
Wow. Okay. When are you coming to see me? Soon. About the other job.
Correct.
Can't wait. That might free up some funds.
Possibly.
Have we any more questions from the floor first? I've got a couple myself. I suppose I am interested in the Green Bridge program and segregation of path, but the Green Bridge, and particularly for new councillors, is the program that obviously there's a couple I've seen come along, but where is that program at for all councillors to understand it? And as we talk, Councillor Gates mentioned we've got to keep traffic moving, which is really important, but in the high density city we need to get the cars off the road. So I'm sure there's a balance in between some communities having some of those green bridges, but as a broader program for everyone to understand their area, is there a report or a presentation that can give a high level view of what that could look like? And that's the balance between building roads and obviously how do we get people off the roads? And that will lead to my next question about segregation of footpaths, and in the city, how do we segregate e-scooters and e-bikes in, I look at the city section down the coastal, but there could be other areas. What considerations being made in that space moving forward?
Yeah, through the chair, good question. So yes, we do have a suite of green bridges. If you recall the northern presentation, there were a number of green bridges there where you know, their ideas. We're progressing one, which is the Pimpama one. But this area, particularly around those canal suburbs, there's not really too much opportunity to add additional road space, unless we, have an appetite to resume houses, and that really isn't sustainable. The way forward, particularly for those areas around Broadbeach Waters, is to look at a multimodal solution. And buses are a part of that, but obviously there are some opportunities. These canals act as barriers, just like the M1 does. So we do have a program, we need to look at these green bridges. We have learned some lessons with some other green bridges we've put in, and you'll find that those Florida Gardens ones, if they become feasible, they won't be as elaborate as some other green bridges. They will be more of your traditional style, lower cost green bridges. It's something we really need to focus on, particularly this part, because of the canals acting as a barrier, but two, because we don't have opportunities to add road space. So that answers the first question. What was the second question? You go.
You go.
Yeah, so if you recall, mid-2022, we did quite a bit of citywide consultation on our new transport strategy. And one of the key bits of feedback we got from the community was, I'd love to cycle. I'd love my kids to cycle to school, but there's no way that I'm cycling in a bike lane. It's just unsafe. So we know there's a whole heap of there's an audience out there that are interested, but they're just concerned about their safety. So best practice is moving towards separating cyclists from traffic, but also separating cyclists from pedestrians. So as part of the development of the new LGIP we're doing, version 3, we are looking at arterial cycleways, where there's opportunities where we can start putting some of these separated and segregated cycleways in. That really is aiming to get those people out of their cars and cycling. We know there's an audience there. We just need to make it safe for them. So that is the way of the future. That's the best practice. And obviously through the east-west, we've got a Veloway happening as part of the Coomera Connector. We've got our Ocean Way, and it's about connecting the ladder with these cycle arterials.
Yeah, I think we all know that people are looking at different modes of transport, and it's important that if we want to make a shift, that part of our challenge moving forward is obviously improving our roads, but it's also providing the opportunity for people to shift to other modes. And with the cost of living and fuel prices, people can go and buy not just a bike, but an e-scooter. And how can that be a simple way, a cost-effective way that we can get around our cities safely, but also shift that form of mode? So something that I'm taking a lot of interest in. The road traffic is twofold. It's one, providing roads network that we can get around efficiently, but how at the same time we provide other alternatives that's safe and effective. And I think this is the whole broad body of work that we're doing moving forward. Do we have any more questions in relation to this? No. Thank you, Nick, for the presentation. Thank you for the briefing to all councillors, and we look forward to future briefings and presentations. So we do have a motion. I think it's just to present be noted. So do we have to move and second that? I'll move it, Councillor Tozer. We have a seconder, Councillor Marshall. All in favour for moving them? Nick, would you like to close the debate, Nick? No? Councillor Tozer, sorry, my apologies. Would you like to talk on a great possession?
I want to make sure you get a chance.
It's all good.
Good, great.
Thank you. So, all in motion, I think.
All in favour?
Carry. Thank you. So I believe that's all the items. We have a couple of general business items I think would like to be presented. Now, Councillor Fowler is not on the committee, but I believe you do have one that we'd like to present. So Councillor O'Neill would like to...
I think the ladies have it up there, and I'll just read it out once it's up on the screen. Okay. Just asking that a report be brought back to Council at a future Transport and Infrastructure Committee meeting regarding the current status of the major upgrade required for Helensvale Road, considering the Coomera Connector interchange opening late 2025. That the report consider any project barriers and explore a pathway forward to a detailed design phase for the project. And I will defer to Councillor Fowler to talk on that.
No. Do we need to
if we have a seconder?
Do we have a seconder on that? Councillor Tozer? Not a problem. Councillor Fowler.
Thank you, Chair. So, as some of you may be aware, the City has always planned in the LGIP over the last 20 years to do a significant upgrade of Helensvale Road, and that was planned within the next sort of 20 years. So what's happened is obviously since then we've had a Coomera Connector interchange now under construction on Helensvale Road, right next to the second largest high school on the Gold Coast. I don't think that city officers would disagree that this is a road that does need to be upgraded when you look at the traffic modelling for what the interchange is going to bring when it does open at the end of next year. The issues that I see with conversations is that we have a lot of barriers to planning and delivery, and I'm really keen for us to look at in detail what does the detailed design, what does the project look like, but what are those barriers, and I guess what are those pathways forward. I'm really aware that this isn't going to just impact Division 2. We have Division 4, we have Paradise Point coming down to the Coomera Connector interchange, Division 5, Division 7 and Division 2 residents all trying to get on to the Coomera Connector interchange. We're definitely going to need to upgrade this road, and I guess I just want a report being brought back so we can explore what does it look like so it doesn't really get put on the back burner and we don't have another Coomera situation here at Helensvale and Hope Island.
Thank you. Any comment?
Thank you, through Mr. Chairman. We're happy to accept that, and the team will work away on bringing some advice back in the near future.
Excellent. Would anyone like to talk in favour of the motion? No. Anyone against? We'll put the motion to you. All in favour? Carry. Well done. We may have a second one. Does Councillor Tozer?
Councillor Martin asked me to raise an item today that relates to the petition that was received by Council relating to nominally communication about the Old Coach Road Stage 2 Bermuda Street extension. And what he's asked me to do is incorporate the response to that petition into the item that is in meeting cycle 847 in September. It won't require much. I've had a quick chat to the officer who has said that he understands those two things are relatively related, but one may end up mitigating the work on the other anyway, depending on how Council resolves to move forward. So this motion is just proposed to just incorporate those two things into one presentation, and I'm happy to move it. It says that Council officers incorporate a response to petition and identifying the petition that we've already received when presenting to Transport and Infrastructure Committee on the Old Coach Road Stage 2 Bermuda Street extension, currently scheduled for meeting 847 in September. Of course, if we reschedule that item, it will also reschedule, but at the moment it's scheduled for the next cycle.
And the intention is to bring the two reports at the same time.
It effectively stops us from doing two reports, and it also means that Council officers don't have to respond to the petition if the substance of that broader, bigger project ultimately deals with the petition material anyway.
Councillor Gates, you got a question?
Thank you. Is Old Coach Road a council road?
Yes.
And Bermuda Street is a state road.
Yes.
So again, my question would be, will there be consultation with the state and a contribution from the state to that extension considered in that report, please?
Thank you, through the chairman. We've got Nick Presser coming out to discuss it, but that has been part of the process that they've been working through.
Thank you. I'm all for the state paying where they should and not the ratepayer.
Through the chair, thanks Councillor Gates for your question. So in May 2020, we have a council resolution about Old Coach Road Stage 2 or Bermuda Street extension. One of the council resolution was that we needed to obtain funding from the state, given that a lot of the benefits of the project are on the state network. So since May 2020, we have had significant liaison with the Department of Transport and Main Roads. So the report that is on the forward schedule for TIC is to provide an update to Council on the Old Coach Road Stage 2 project, which will include information about our liaison with the Department of Transport and Main Roads and current status of the project in terms of its scope and cost, and the way forward.
That's great, thanks. I can remember the conversation very well because I think I was one of those naysayers who said we shouldn't do it because the state should do it. So I'm pleased to hear that there's been ongoing negotiations. How successful they've been. I look forward to the report. Thank you.
So we'll get Councillor Tozer to move it. I'm happy to second it.
Thanks, Councillor Taylor. Loosely, I'm hoping that there might be a section of that report that Mr. Presser referred to that just effectively just a couple of paragraphs that deal with the petition, and if ultimately Council resolves to move in a different direction than we have in the past, then we can deal with that on the same day.
Perfect. Anyone want to talk for? Anyone against? Put the motion to you. All in favour? Carry. Do we have any more general business? I think that's it. So 2:14. We'll close the meeting. Thank you, everyone.